girl you know, from your neighborhood, to see if at all they are on the front page of the dailies. That's all we have. And the papers are so heavy today.
Oh, yes. And I got to say, because you're saying everyone is looking, I'm also looking, and I'm very happy with it. I'm very happy with it.
You spotted a name or two.
I spotted a name, and I'm very happy today, this particular morning. One, Samson Kinara Nyabuto, who scored 423 marks at Imperial Primary School.
On the front page of...
That's on the front page of the Daily Nation.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Samson
Papers
Kinara.
are quite heavy. Congratulations to all those guys who actually performed very well, including...
Samson Kinara Nyabuto.
Yes, and Nuru Okanga as well.
Oh, yes, Nuru Okanga as well.
Congratulations. This is Morning Cafe. My name is Freddy Ndimuli. 31 days to Christmas.
And Merry Christmas to you in advance. And welcome to Morning Cafe. This particular morning, we wrap up the week in style. Arrow Boy and Nadia Mukami will be right here with us this particular morning just to talk about matters love, music, and the whole future that comes with all that. You definitely don't want to miss all that, even as we wrap up this particular week.
Where's your sister?
Where's my... She decided to start the weekend probably early. Probably said she's under the weather.
Okay.
Yes, so...
Limuki is not in today.
Yes, we'll have to see her on Monday.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll just have to wait. Christmas imanza mapema. Anyway, let's take a look at the highlights this morning.
And well, first off, still on the whole matters, KCPE focus now shifts to the Form 1 selection process for 2023 KCPE examination candidates, which begins on Monday next week for a period of 2 weeks to allow parents adequate time to prepare for the new academic calendar.
Wow, President William Ruto attends the East Africa Community High-Level Panel on Climate Change and Food Security in Arusha, Tanzania, ahead of the COP28 UN Climate Change Conference to be held in Dubai starting next week.
And in politics, ODM postpones its members' recruitment drive in Nairobi to December 7th. The exercise had earlier been slated for tomorrow across all the wards in Nairobi County.
To our top story now. President William Ruto yesterday afternoon traveled to Arusha, Tanzania, where he attended the East Africa Community High-Level Panel on Climate Change and Food Security. Other heads of state at the forum included President Samia Suluhu Hassan of Tanzania, Evariste Ndayishimiye of Burundi, former Ethiopian Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn, Rwandan Prime Minister Edward Ngirente, and first Deputy Prime Minister of Uganda, Rebecca Alitwala Kadaga. Now, the event is a precursor of COP28, the United Nations Climate Change Conference, set to be held in Dubai from 30th November until 12th December this year. Earlier this week, the president was in Europe for a 3-day visit to Germany and France, where he addressed the European Union Parliament. And you know, now they're saying one of the busiest person serving the president is his pilot. Never gets time to rest. Just when he's thinking, okay, I'm taking a break,
No.
back to work.
Back to work. But you know, I'm imagining how the passports are looking like right now.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very dirty.
Very busy. You have to keep renewing after every 2 weeks.
But speaking of which, the dailies this particular morning, as you had alluded, probably now skimming through the papers, trying to see if someone you know or someone who knows someone who you know is on the front page of this dailies. We'll be taking a look at some of these names. Fred, we begin with some colorful pictures of the Standard.
On the Standard, very beautiful pictures there of some of the top candidates. Warutere rules roost as stars bid bye to KCPE. Michael Warutere is the toast of town after topping the last KCPE exam with an impressive 428 marks. After 39 years, the curtains have come down on the primary school's examination. This story is on page 4. And here's a picture there of the top candidate, Michael Warutere, celebrating with teachers, family and friends at the Riara Group Primary School in Imara Daima, Nairobi yesterday. And once again, Congratulations.
Okay.
And goodbye to KCP after 39 years.
Oh, yes.
Yes, that system is way older than you, Stanley. You know, I think it's double your age, or more than double.
Let's focus on what really matters here.
So let me just mention some of the names on the front page of the Standard, because it is rare.
It is there, yes. Once in a blue moon. And actually, when you talk about KCP, will be the last time we're mentioning some of these names, because I'm pretty sure now next year, the whole assessment, when you talk about KEPSEA and the assessment, we won't really be having...
This is the last time we're seeing this kind of accolades and dailies mentioning who has what.
Yes.
So for Michael Warutere from Riara Group Primary School, 428. Jacinta Bethany from St. Anne's Mumias, 427. Felix Ochola, Rai Kanyaika Primary, 426. Trevor Njenga, St. Peter's Elite School, 423. Valerie Chemutai, St. Mary's Mixed Primary, 421. Eric Kingiri, Moi Primary School, 421. Masina Ikwetu, Little Lamb School, 420. Blessing Washeke Radiance Primary, 420. Omurunga Christina Greenville School, 420. Keisha Wanjiku Kamau Alba School, 420. Now, yes, I know there's some who have even higher marks than some of these people here, but this is what the Standard managed to get and trace. And I'm sure some other dailies have different names as well. Some quick data, 1.4 million candidates sat for the exam, 9,000 or so were absent. The number of boys was over 700,000, the number of girls 680,000, and those with between 400 and 500 marks, over 8,500. And I saw Limuki tweeting last night that over 700,000 of the candidates got below 200 marks. So, yeah, mtihani ilikuwa ngumu. Yes, in as far as KCPE is concerned, that is what is on the front page of the Standard. Other highlights away from KCPE. On the top strip, employees to pay more taxes as new health rates take effect. That story is on page 25. And it is one of the stories that probably has been overshadowed by KCP results, but is a story that we need to pay much more focus on.
Oh, yes.
Of course, the Pulse pull-out, it is a Friday, weekend ishafika, and on the business pages, state to split Kenya Power to create superpower farm. Wow, that's on the business pages, page 30. We flip the pages and we're back to the English Premier League, and...
It had been a minute since both of you really criticized Man United, so this is your chance as you wrap up the week.
Another opportunity to criticize Man United, and on the back page of the Standard, Man United wary of wounded Everton. Surely. But anyway, the way these headlines portray Man United. Yes, a number of matches for this weekend. Man City versus Liverpool. It's a big one tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Sheffield United, Bournemouth at 6. Newcastle versus Chelsea at 6 p.m. as well. Luton Town versus Crystal Palace, 6 p.m. as well. At 8:30, Brentford Arsenal, another good game there. Nottingham Brighton, 6 p.m. Burnley West Ham United, 6 p.m. and Tottenham Aston Villa, 5 p.m. This is tomorrow. And yes, for lovers of the English Premier League, something to look forward to this weekend. The league is back. Man United are scared as... Watch it.
Your predictions on this one? Because on Monday morning, we'll be right here to analyze and see, did Arsenal win? Did Man United win?
Prepare for the pain. That's all I can say. Prepare for the pain. Let's take a look at the Daily Nation.
The man of the hour, Michael Warutere, makes it to the front page of the Daily Nation this particular morning, the last KCPE exam. The last time we're taking a look at these particular photos of these students, all of them smiling, and they really deserve it. Michael Warutere, the top candidate in the country's final KCPE exams at Riara Springs Primary School in Imaro Daima, Nairobi yesterday. He was probably, taking a call from the many relatives. That's the one time you remember and you say, I am related to this boy.
This is the kind of newspaper that you take and keep.
For ages.
Yes. You even frame it. Yes. Because finding your face on the front page of the paper, of the Daily Nation or of the Standard is not an easy thing.
Oh, yes.
Once you get there, you made it.
So someone who was calling him probably, they met some years back. Yes. They've never met, and they're like, I know the top boy.
But there's always that question that when you're looking at KCSE exam results, then you go back and see whoever was top
yes.
candidates when they did KCPE, are they the same top candidates at the end of their KCC? So it's something to look forward to.
4 years later, Warutere will be skimming through and seeing where did you go to and what you scored. But anyway, hopefully the best. And definitely a Daily Nation says adios. Other names here, Jacinta Kasungu of St. Anne's Bomias in Kakamega, the Immaculate Washeke of Gilgil Hills Academy in Nakuru. But even as both public and private schools posted impressive results, the final KCPE exams registered a drop in performance in most subjects. And it's always rare to see Daily Nation sparing acres and acres of pages, but they have done that today.
10 pages.
10 pages, from pages from 2 all the way to page 11, and then page 14 and 16. Quite a heavy paper today. Top candidates in mountain, they have them there, and top performers nationally, from Michael Warutere, 428, all the way. I definitely have to again mention one very top boy. I'd call him my cousin, Samson Kinara. Quite proud of that boy.
So we should be congratulating you, Stanley.
Oh, yes.
Congratulations to Stanley.
To Samson.
Samson Kinara,
yes.
Imperial Primary School, 423 marks. Congratulations, Samson.
Yes. And just below there, again, other photos and other names that Daily Nation also managed to get that are not reflecting on the standard. 421, Natalia Simiyu of Sitam Schools, Woodley. Mbethe Fazia Mwani, Goods Testimony Junior, 421. Richard Kangeta Benjamin, Accurate Schools, Komarok, another 420 here. Chanel Akinyi Otieno, Tendercare Junior Academy. 418, Alaina Wangare Kariuki, DePaul Austin Academy, that is in Kiambu. 417, Angela Wairimu Warui of DePaul Austin, and Mogaka Loveline Kiribo of Ongata Academy in Kajiado with another 417. And just at the right strip, they give you top nationally. I'd mentioned Immaculate Washeke, pictured there. Jacinta Kasungu, 427, pictured there, as well as Khadija Eunice Ahmed, Light Academy, Mombasa. And that's all that is really focused on the Daily Nation. At the very top strip, they say special tests in January for 9,000 who failed to sit exams as grade 6 results to be released later. And just to take a look at the back page, that particular story that was also reflecting on the top strip of Standard. And you also mentioned that it is quite a big story that really needs our attention. State to raid workers' pay as SHIF law takes effect. That is the Social Health Insurance Fund. And the Health CS on Wednesday gazetted the Social Health Insurance Act. An interesting number there, 2.7%, 2.75%. That is the proportion of monthly salary that workers in formal employment will pay as contribution to the SHIF. And I'm seeing here, Law of the Rings boxing. Nairobi lawyers Benjamin Jeru and Shodro Komboy to fight raise funds for charity tomorrow and special bouts at Nairobi's Charter Hall. Wow, interesting.
Yeah. Kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo Ijumaa hii, nyota wa KCPE 2023. Hiyo ndio habari kuu pale. Mtihani wa mwaka huu ulivutia watahiniwa 1,04,657 huku 8,000 wengine wakipata alama 400 na zaidi. Na kama gazeti zingine, Taifa Leo imeweka picha za wale walio bora zaidi kwenye mtihani huo. Matokeo ya mtihani wa mwisho wa darasa la 8 KCPE yaliyotangazwa jana na Waziri wa Elimu Ezekiel Machogu yalisherehekewa sawa na kutamatika kwa mtaala wa 844 ambao mwisho wake ulikuwa jana. Na habari kamili kwenye kurasa za 2, 3, 4 na pia ukurasa wa 11 kwenye Taifa Leo. Masuala ya KCPE ndio yamepewa kipaumbele kwenye ukurasa wa mbele. Hamna kidokezo kingine zaidi ya mtihani huo.
Well, it seems that this particular morning matters. NHF and KCPE are making big news as reflecting on the Business Daily. The big story there, state mute on 2.75% and HIF rate as new fund kicks in. Talks about government names team to run social health authority, and the new act does not disclose the amount Kenyans will pay. 40% percentage cut informal sector workers will enjoy from 500 Kenyan shillings. Other stories just at the bottom there. KCPE candidates with 400 marks drop 10%. And pictured there, the top candidates, Michael Warutere as well as Jacinta Bethany. And on the right side, a major win for public servants in Park's suit. That is on matters economy and in matters markets and finance. And CBA, Stanbic profit up by double digits. And Fred, even as you continue, crossing over to the Stand People Daily, I mean, it's imperative that even the viewer can really send in the congratulatory messages to the friends, the fellow pupils, and the family members. Talk to us and send in those particular messages. 22047 at TV47 KE on Facebook, as well as TV47 News on X. Send in those particular messages. As we wrap it up, we'll be sampling a few of them.
Okay. Let's continue looking at the dailies, and we do have the People Daily, best of final KCPE. More pictures of top candidates there. Michael Warutere, also on the front page of the People Daily. Celebrations for top candidates. This year, 8,523 candidates scored over 400 marks. Number of boys and girls who sat exam was almost equal, and 2,060 scored less than 100 marks. The report is extensively covered in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th pages of the People Daily today. And that's the front page of the People Daily. The only other highlight, headline highlighted on the front page, is that scroll on the top strip of the People Daily, all set for Sekafa Under 18 kickoff in Kisumu and Kakamega. And that's the only highlight away from the KCP results. That's on the front page of the People Daily.
We'll be getting back to People Daily to see what Stanu has for us on page 10. But meanwhile, on the front page of the Star, like other papers, the KCPE takes a huge chunk of the front page. Academy's China's curtain falls on KCPE. Results mark end of a Standard 8 exam, first introduced 38 years ago. Boys did better in maths and science. Boys and girls performed comparably in social studies and religious education. Pages 4 all the way to page 9. And just below there are pictorials of this particular boys and girls smiling cheek to cheek. And another highlight at the very top scroll, Anjiri. One highlight that doesn't reflect on other dailies. 17 billion cash shillings oil scandal that never was. And for the Siasa pullout this morning, Ruto to have last word on talks. Which reminds me, today should be the deadline.
Yes, the National Dialogue Committee has promised to present its report tomorrow. The deadline is actually on Sunday, the 26th.
Oh, Sunday,
But they had said that by today they will have finalized the report, and now they say they will be presenting it to the principals tomorrow for onward forwarding to the Houses of Parliament. Time now to cross the borders and take a look at what's headlining in our neighboring countries. And we start off with Uganda. And in Uganda, Kampala, we take a look at the Daily Monitor. This morning, the big headline on the Daily Monitor, Katanga's son opposes inquest into dad's death. Arthur Katanga, through the law firm of Kampala Associated Advocates, has filed an affidavit in reply to the inquest application averring the two members of his extended family don't have power of attorney to institute such a cause on behalf of other family. That's a big story there on the front page of Daily Monitor. Big news in Kampala today. A photo there of some Chinese businessmen and Ugandan government officials. Tayebwa seeks more trade with China. Other highlights on the front page of the Daily Monitor today. Mpanga, girl child advocate, and uproar of a looming sale of Muslim property. On the very bottom strip, more highlights. Opposition NRM face off over plenary boycott. And ICC boosts effort to revive case against Kony. And Joseph Kony still exists. Joseph Kony is, I think, the longest, the oldest rebel leader in Uganda, and is still there. Interesting. And ICC boosts effort to revive case against Kony. That's on page 4 of the Daily Monitor. Big news in Kampala today. Katanga son opposes inquest into dad's death.
Right, and let's cross over to Tanzania. Gazeti la Mwananchi, masuala ya elimu aidha ya pewa kipaumbele katika gazeti hili. Wasema ni janga la hisabati, matokeo ya darasa la 7. Seems as if Tanzania was also releasing grade 7 results yesterday. To confirm that. But anyway, nusu ya wanafunzi wafeli hisabati, wengine zaidi ya hawa wafeli Kiingereza. Udanganyifu wa punza 31, shule 2 zafungiwa kuendesha mtihani huo. Wasomi waeleza sababu na kutoa suluhisho. Waweka idadi na takwimu kwa nini kuna janga la hisabati.
And hisabati is actually mathematics.
Yes. To our viewers who...
In Kenya, you may not understand this. This is maswala ya kule bongo.
Janga la hisabati hili. Kulingana na DK Sima Said, kuna maeneo mengine unakuta mwalimu yeyote anapewa somo fulani afundishe, tofauti na shule za sekondari. Lakini pili, kuna changamoto pia ya idadi ya walimu wenye uwezo kufundisha somo hilo. Akiongelea hisabati, utoshelevu bado ni kikwazo. Vidokezo vingine katika gazeti hili pale chini: saa 30 za mateso, abiria wa Tazara ukata bado watajwa. Wameka picha za abiria hao katika ukurasa wa 4. Kwingineko, Dikto kortini akidai fidia ya shilingi bilioni 6 za Tanzania zile. Kwingineko, aliyefia vitani Israel atunukiwa shahada, mwili kutua kesho. Pande kulia, kishindo cha wakili Mpoki, kesi 8 zaja. Mwishowe pale juu katika gazeti lile hili, kesi mauaji ya muuza madini ya kwama tena, Jaji Kakolaki atoa agizo. Na hivyo ndivyo vidokezo katika gazeti la Mwananchi.
Tusalie kule Bongo, Tanzania, and we take a look at The Citizen. The big headline on The Citizen this morning: report business climate positive but snags remain. Businessmen in Tanzania feel that foreign currency shortages, infrastructural limitations and limited access to credit are among factors impeding cross-border trade, according to a new report. The other big headline there: why maths is still a problem in Standard 7 exam. Experts weigh in after more than half of candidates who sat this year's primary school leaving examination failed mathematics. The story is on page 2 of The Citizen today. And yes, as you mentioned correctly, it would appear that both Kenya and Tanzania released the examination results at the same time. And then REA says all villages will have power by June 2024. Well, something also common between Kenya and Tanzania are the promises of development from the leadership. And that's The Citizen. The other highlight there, the task awaiting incoming ESC chairperson. The story is on page 3. And yes, President William Ruto joined a number of heads of state and government in Arusha, Tanzania, for that climate summit ahead as a precursor of the COP28, which takes place beginning end of this month. And yes, big news in Tanzania as well, matters to do with education, why mathematics is still a problem in Standard 7 exam. I think I know why. You know, when you teach mathematics in any other language apart from English, I'm sure there will be challenges. Even if you try it in your own mother tongue.
Tafuta X.
And algebra in...
calculus. I mean, imagine learning calculus in
I'm not
Swahili.
saying it is wrong to use any other language, but it is problematic.
Yes.
You can understand the challenge.
Anyway, speaking of challenges, on page 20 of the Daily Nation is where we're finding our caricature this morning. On page 14 of the Standard and on page 10 of People Daily. We're having that on your screens just in a moment. And on page 20, beginning with Daily Nation, on page 20, seems like an athletics track there, and the one who's behind is 844, passing the baton to CBC, but the baton is broken. And the gentleman there helping CBC to run even faster says it will be seamless.
Yes, the challenge now is how to ensure that CBC actually works, because even 844 started off
in a shaky,
very promising. And for us who went through the 844 system sometimes
in the early years
and
now,
early
yes.
90s, it was a very different kind of system. Towards the end, it was more theoretical, more about more books, more subjects, and things just changed. So we're hoping that CBC will not start off with good intentions and then end up the same way. The cartoon on the Standard is on page 14. Page 14 of the Standard, and these matters Zimbabwe.
Yes.
And there's someone seated at the table, and there's the name tag Mnangagwa, that's the president of Zimbabwe, ready to eat. And different people feeding him. The opposition, critics, media. And the commentator says that second term has started in earnest. Gado matters Zimbabwe, and total departure from what Kenyans are talking about today matters to do with the KCPE.
And Stano is focusing on that on People Daily on page 10, burial site. There, that particular stone that says RIP KCPE. And there are two pupils who are leaving that particular gravesite. And they ask, end of an era or end of an era? Quite satirical. Love that.
And as I mentioned, you know, many people may see the faults in 844, but remember the intention of 844 was they were very progressive intentions, and probably something just went wrong somewhere. And that's a concern right now. Yes, CBC, the intentions are very good and very clear, and everyone hopes that this will be the remedy to our education system. But, well, the challenges are there. You can actually see even the challenges we're facing now already. So yes, no capturing that end of an era or era. RIP KCPE. Well, those are the dailies this morning. Remember, being a Friday today, we're going to be looking at the state of the nation, the youth perspective, and joining us today will be Munyendo J. Maxwell, Secretary General, United Democratic Movement Youth League, Wendy Aura, Governance Analyst, Anthony Manyara, Chairperson KUSO and IASU, and Teresa Loch, Digital Communications Officer. Do stand by for that conversation. Meanwhile, as Stanley had requested, you can keep sending your congratulatory messages through our social media pages.
Oh, yes.
And probably Stanley will be able to sample some.
Yes, even as you continue. You know, very simple, just tell us.
Look for your relative or neighbor on the front pages if at all he has performed well.
Oh, yes.
And probably, even if he has not been captured by the major dailies.
We're here to also, you know,
yes.
Also to say who
we
that
could highlight this.
Yes, also say who that particular people is, and all you just really have to, you know, tell us his, you know, the name of this particular people, the
name, the school, and the score.
Yes, the name, the school, and the score, and send it to us. And
Stanley Nyaringita, Potengera Nyangweso Primary School, 210.
I knew you'll say. I knew you couldn't really say 400. I knew you're going with the 200. Anyway, 31 minutes past the top of the hour. We'll definitely keep talking to us. We're taking a short break. You're watching Morning Cafe.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV47 with me, Fred Indimuli. Time now to take a look at the headlines, and today we have no choice. We have to talk about KCPE. All the headlines, all the big dailies are just talking about KCPE. They've dedicated acres and acres of space. The Daily Nation has at least 10 pages dedicated to KCPE, and everyone is just looking for a name you can recognize, and I'll be asking my panelists to do the same. This morning, on the youth perspective, as we take a look at the headlines, privileged to have in studio Teresa Loch, Digital Communications Officer. It's good to have you in studio. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And Munyendo J. Maxwell, Secretary General, United Democratic Movement, Youth League. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, everyone this morning is simply looking for a face you can recognize or a name that you know, a neighbor, a nephew, a niece, someone, or even an uncle, you never know. Yes, anyone you know on the front pages, someone you need to congratulate. We could start from there because, yes, this dailies may not have captured all the top performers. If you know of any top performer, 400 and above, who's not been captured on the front pages, it's your time to congratulate them. If you have any. No, you don't? Okay, let's move on. Congratulations to all the candidates. But now, focus now shifts to the new curriculum. And I can tell that both of you at least may have gone through 844 system. I hope I'm right.
Yes, you
and yesterday marked the end of KCPE. Of course, for the next 4 years, there'll still be that last cohort that has to go through 844 system. But now we're moving to the new curriculum, and challenges abound. Talking about 844, and that has been there for about 38 years or so, the intentions initially were very clear, very much like the CBC that we now talk about. It was more or less a very practical system. But somewhere down the line, things changed. Yeah. Yes? Now we're adopting a new competency-based curriculum, and we have no choice. We no longer have KCPE from next year.
Yeah, sure.
Yet challenges abound. Where do we head from there? Teresa, let's start with you.
So I think it's a good thing that we're recognizing that the previous education system did have challenges. Presently, we have a lot of employers, we have a lot of professionals complaining that the younger generation is not ready for the world of work. But then from the other side, they're like, we went through this system with the promise that you'll finish school and you'll get jobs. How is it that those who are supposed to give us jobs are saying we are not ready? We've done everything we've been told. When we get to the door, we are told, no, you can't come in. So I think there was a very big disconnect in terms of preparing these students for the world of work and the expectations of the employers on the other side. There was a disconnect between those two. So I am hoping that the competency-based curriculum, which is anchored on the premise that it's going to create jobs, merges the interests between those two, the expectations of the learners and the expectations of the employers. If that does not happen, then we shall just be repeating what we have been doing so far.
But the expectation that the CBC will be a panacea to all that ailed, or that disconnect between the employers and those people who are getting into the job market, could be misplaced. 844 produced people who are employers right now. The same system is said now to have produced people who are not employable. Even the CBC runs the same risk, don't you think, Maxwell?
Thank you very much, Fred, number one, for having me. First of all, I want to make it very clear that the current education system that is now going to be declared moribund had exceeding successes in terms of producing people who are job ready. Remember that the 70% of the adult population currently are a product of the 844 system of education. And if they have done well in the spheres that they are in now, that tells you that the 844 system has done quite well. But that as it may, I think from the onset, from the inception of this system, it was not supposed to be a system that will be with us for all through. Of course, successive governments have to come up with other curriculums tailored to ensure that the individual, that is the person, develops skills that are not just for employment, but those that will also help the person to create employment. Because currently we have an emphasis on people creating jobs. It's no longer a conversation around people getting out of the education system and waiting to be employed, but people getting out of the education with the skills and with the ability and knowledge to do that which he can do for individual sustenance, and also in turn, we hope that the person now can create an opportunity for another person to progress. So from the onset, I think the CBC curriculum is welcome. It is something. It is timely, and of course, we do not want to dwell on the challenges that will come with it, because it's just a system that is taking off. Or rather, give it time, just as we gave 804 time, and I'm sure it will work, because as Loch rightly says, it is more of the emphasis on the skills that will enable one to be self-reliant and to be entrepreneurial and to create jobs for other people in turn. Yes.
Yet even the 844 played a role. Probably the needs of our society then.
Yes.
That was the best remedy, and probably we needed to have improved literacy levels across the nation. Yes. 844 managed to capture quite a huge chunk as compared to the previous education system that was there prior to 844. Question is, the thinking behind CBC, do you see it as more of an answer to the current needs that our nation faces?
The thinking behind CBC. So a lot of thought and a lot of work has gone into CBC, with people placing emphasis on the involvement of parents, on the development of competency and skills. So a lot has gone into it. But at the same time, people are still recognizing some of the gaps they saw in the previous system. And people are wondering whether the new curriculum will fits the bill. Like, it has been marketed to us, and then people have been forced to adapt it. Many people were not ready. A lot of parents have been on the other end, like, they're not ready for this system. But then, like all education systems, like many of the government products, you have to adopt and run with it. So I think the focus for us should be on how do we make it work, because it's here with us already and it's not going away. So how do we make it work? And as my counterpart here said, like, we don't really want to focus on the challenges, but I think we should focus on the challenges, because then we need to know what to avoid and what to prepare for. I would think that as much as 844 was premised on improving their levels of literacy and just making people, I don't think it was meant to make people employment ready, but it was focused on improving literacy and solving and bridging that gap. I don't think they were ready for us after 844, because I don't think there was a plan for people when they finished the last four. That's why we are where we are being told we should go outside and look for jobs. As a young person who's labored through this system, then I get to the end and you're telling me we don't have jobs for you. Go outside and look for jobs.
For a different country.
Yeah, it sort of deflates the zeal that I have. You've been told be the best, so you do your best. You get good marks in KCPE, you get the same pressure for KCSE, you do it. You get the pressure of getting to a university and choosing a course. You do that, and you do your best in that course. Then once you get to the very end, we now tell you, go outside.
We're not ready for you.
We are not ready for you.
Wow.
So are we looking at CBC in a way that we are looking at the mistakes of the past and saying we don't want that? Because then we are creating skills. What happens when we all, because not everyone can be an employer, not everyone can create jobs. So how are we solving that?
Yes. And hence the question, Maxwell, are we, because Loch puts it very, very well, that it should be the other way around, that what does a society need? What does a market, the Kenyan market need? What does a Kenyan employment market, the economy need? Then from that need, then you formulate a curriculum that will feed into that. Is that what we have done with CBC? Or are we still having the same problem bottom up? We start with the education system, then we'll find out the consequences later.
Fred, I think we have done that with the new system, because part of the reasons why the old system has to be, part of the reason why what informed it being improved is because it focused more on the knowledge, on the knowledge, on abstract, on people just focusing on theories. But look, we have a system, we have a new system that has more emphasis on skills and that matter practical skills. You've seen some of the CBC parents complain that now they are being forced to sit at home with the children and be part of them doing their homework. I think that is the right route we should take as a country, because then also look at a scenario where the parents are being directly involved in the personal, in the educational development of their children. I think it's something that is something that must not be taken lightly, something that we must all embrace. Remember that the last system focused more of us going to school and us doing things on our own. But look, here we have a system that has the parent directly involved in the welfare of the students. And I think that is a very good thing. And of course, looking at the dynamics of our country, the dynamics are different. We have to have a system that encourages us all from the elemental levels of our growth that we need to be self-reliant, we need to apply our skills. And in turn, when we apply our skills, we are able to come up with innovations and inventions that may actually lead to you getting returns in terms of some revenue, but also, as I've said, help you enable others, be part of that through you, enabling them get the access to these opportunities. So with CBC, I think we are doing well, and it is timely. And the pilot phase was done well, because remember, it's a system that before it was rolled out, we had a pilot phase, we had participations, we had people opposing it, but again, we cannot stick to the status quo. I think this is the time as a country, if we have to move forward, we have to embrace new systems, and these systems are geared towards the betterment of this nation. Thank you. Yes.
And one of the things that will definitely change is that come next year, at a time like this, we will not be seeing such front pages. One thing that this transition will change is the competitive nature of our education. That we've created an industry around competition in education, that schools have been formed because they can boast of producing top candidates and ranking of schools the way we are doing it on the front pages. Yes. This has been the norm.
Yes.
With the new system, this will no longer happen. Entire industries may collapse because you can no longer boast of having top candidates. KEPSEA is more about continuous assessment, and therefore some things will definitely have to change. 844 could actually be said to have produced more private education institutions which are more business-minded as opposed to public institutions. Do you think that the CBC will boost the public education system?
First of all, I am grateful that we are scrapping off the competitiveness of education, because in many ways it has had so many detriments, and specifically referring to persons with disability, whereby I have a sibling who's deaf and mute. They are taught in Kenya Sign Language, which is very different from English, but they're examined in English. So then this person is expected to sit for the same exams in English with somebody who's instructed in English and has to sit for exams in English. So you look at their results, and there's a very big difference. You also look at the mini-score of the school, because that's what most teachers emphasize on. That's what gets them more students, more funding and all that. So you compare these two schools. One school has the top candidate probably having like 200, and that's like their best candidate, and another one has 428. But then we don't take into consideration the various disparities and the uniqueness of each of the schools. So the fact that we are scrapping away the competitive nature of our schooling system is a plus for me. It is also a plus in terms of what happens to students once they get out of that system. because then we were taught exceptionalism. We were taught you're only good if you are better than other people. So we now have a lot of young adults who were exceptional back in school, but they're wondering why the exceptionalism is not favoring them in the workplace.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was number one then, I was on the TV, but look at me now. I am suffering because we were taught exceptionalism. We were only able to stand out if we were tall and others were short. So I am very grateful that that is being scrapped off. In terms of whether it will boost primary education, if we do it well, it might.
My question is actually because that kind of competition created an imbalance between the performance in private institutions vis-a-vis the performance of public schools. Private schools have for years been top performers producing. You look at the kind of schools here, and 80-90% of them are private institutions producing this kind of top scorers. Then what happens to public institutions? That most public primary schools are rarely on the front pages. Yes? Now we shift to CBC, and we're seeing a repeat of the same. That private institutions appear to be implementing CBC much faster, much better. Aren't we perpetuating the same kind of imbalance that we're still leaving behind public primary schools?
Fred, I think public-private school aside.
This is the
public-private schools aside, the imbalance occasioned by our education systems also has to do with resources. And you can imagine a public school in Nairobi, for example, Kilimani Primary School, competing with a school somewhere in Turkana, a place called Kanokol. Of course, you can't expect the two to be on a competitive pedestal, because these schools, number one, the dynamics of the regions where they are situated are different. So there's already an imbalance. So the outcome of any tests from these schools, of course, there will be a disparity. So the reason why, and I have also to acknowledge efforts that have been made towards this tail end of the last system, where the minister, I think it was Dr. Fred Matiang'i, introduced the 100% transition, and that has had its fair share of goodies, because then if you have to tell students, or rather if you have to condemn people based on what they have performed in KCP, and then they come to surprise you in KCSE, it tells you there's a challenge. There's a challenge of imbalance of resources, and part of what CBC will do is to cure some of these imbalances by ensuring also that resources, schools that are far-flung from Nairobi and other regions, are able to get the same resources equally, so that students are able to develop or to learn.
Yet that is one of the biggest challenges that we are seeing right now, that private institutions are much better able to build what they're called performance theaters for those taking performance arts, science laboratories. They're much, because of the kind of resources they have, they're building them much faster. Yet in public primary schools, these facilities are not there. It is the same curriculum. Yet education is supposed to be the equalizer, the equalizing factor.
Definitely.
Yeah, the resource question is very pertinent to this. As I was saying before, if we do it well, we might be able to solve the disparity. But presently we are not doing it well, because one, we are marketing the benefits of CBC by saying education will be an equalizer because we are doing X, Y, Z, but we are not investing in those schools where there is a gap. So we are forcing a curriculum on teachers, on parents, and on children, but we are not investing in them in terms of giving them the resources needed. We have seen in the past year where we had the comparison, especially on social media, of different schools implementing the CBC curriculum. When somebody is in Kilimani, they have a performing theater, or they have a space where they can do their arts. But then we have a school somewhere in Vihiga County where we saw the kids in the field trying to act out something. But even then, it was not like, it could not compare with what the other students were doing in Kilimani, because that school does not have the resources to implement that. Then when you go and do, say, what you're doing strategy sessions for a school, a public school, let's still use the Vihiga example, when you talk to them about their challenges, in Kilimani, you'll be told we have the issue of mental health, we have the issue of kids, say they don't want their mobile phones confiscated. But you go to the other side and they tell you one of their problems is that during this season, kids never come back to school, either because of the rains or because they had to move. Like, not all public schools are the same. Even as we speak of the disparity between private and public schools, we have to recognize that not all public schools are the same. A public school in Kilimani or in Nairobi is not the same as the public school he mentioned in Turkana. There's a difference in resources. And just that in the devolution system where we talk about we allocating resources to the county based on their needs, we also have to invest in these primary schools based on their needs. Okay. Once we're able to bridge that gap, we can expect and we can confidently say that education is going to be an equalizer. But if we are not investing in them, it is not yet an equalizer.
Wow. Time for us to take a break. You can continue interacting with us. And remember, you can continue congratulating, sending messages of congratulations to some of the top candidates, some of them who are not even featured on the dailies today. And you can do so on our social media pages, on X at TV47 News and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya. You're watching Morning Cafe. Let's take a break.
Wanasema wasemao kuwa elimu ni bahari haiishi kwa kuchotwa. Wakati mwingi natangamana na wanafunzi madarasani, sio kama mwalimu bali kama nahodha kwenye kipindi cha tasnia ya elimu. Na iwapo utanikosa madarasani, basi utanipata nyanjani nikisaka habari zenye usawa, ufasaha na ukweli. Na iwapo utanikosa nyanjani, bila shaka utanipata studioni, hapa nikisoma habari na kuendesha mijadala mikomavu. Mimi ni Andrin Kilemi, mpenzi wa lugha ya Kiswahili na elimu kwa jumla.
Yes, continue interacting with us on our social media pages. I'm also tweeting here something. You can continue sending your messages of congratulations to the KCPE top performers, even as we continue with this discussion here. And I want to wrap up this conversation about education and with my panelists, Maxwell here and Teresa Loch. And the challenges for the CBC are known. That the curriculum is not yet foolproof. For those who are already in the junior school, there's still that confusion between where should those schools be domiciled, in primary schools or in secondary schools. Remember, we are now fully immersed in CBC, yet these challenges still exist. KUPPET, the Union for Post-Primary Teachers, insists this should be taken to secondary schools. Now, when this back and forth continues, then we end up with a cohort of students who appear more like guinea pigs, especially those in junior secondary schools, whose texts for curriculum are not yet ready. Some of them are not even sure which texts they should be using to teach. The quality of teachers who teach in junior secondary schools, the training is still wanting. There should be a distinction between those teaching in primary schools and those teaching in junior secondary schools. These are just some of the challenges. But Maxwell,
yes,
unless we get these challenges right, we will be failing an entire generation. And hence the question, did we move too fast in implementing a new education system without ensuring that it is foolproof?
I think, Fred, we didn't move too fast. Of course, we agree that there are challenges, the confusion as to where the junior secondary schools are supposed to be domiciled, and also the question of the not so sufficient training that was done to teachers to prepare them for this curriculum. But be that as it may, we have to acknowledge the fact that it is good to start, and of course to start we have to begin from somewhere. We acknowledge that we have these challenges, but with the challenges, I'm sure that given time, we will be able to take off very well. We acknowledge the fact that there has been even a lot of statements issued by various sectors and some parents who allege that, of course, the process was done in a hurry. But I hold the view that let us just take off. We take off, then the challenges, I'm sure these challenges are not insurmountable. At one point, we'll surmount these challenges. And I want to believe that the new cabinet secretary under the new regime is up to task. And of course, there are enough stakeholders to help us roll out this program well. So mine is to look at the future with a mindset of optimism that with the challenges we'll be able to surmount, we'll be able to roll out the program well for our new learners.
There's this phrase or animal that we call public participation, that we throw it around everywhere. And you look at the handling of our education system right now, from basic education all the way to universities, and it would appear like the government or the administration is just talking down at Kenyans in as far as implementing knee-jerk education policies. And on this CBC, parents are complaining, teachers are complaining, everyone is complaining. What happened to public participation when everyone is complaining about a new curriculum, yet we still go ahead and implement it?
Yeah, the monster of public participation, where do we even begin? Yes, people say on one end, they say they involved parents, they involved teachers, but on the other side, parents, teachers are saying we were not involved in the process. So where is the gap? And it falls down to how public participation is done in this country. Because you find that when people are supposed to be involved in decision making, the information does not come in a timely way, the information is not comprehensive. So if you're holding a public participation session where it's advertised in newspapers, I think you have the data on how many people read newspapers and how many people have access to these newspapers. Because presently, newspapers are going for how much? 60 shillings. 60 bob, yeah. And the people whose children are in school, many of them from low and middle income households, do they actually buy newspapers? Because the condition is that these notices should be circulated in nationwide newspapers. Most of these people don't have access to these newspapers. And newspapers are not their priority. They have access to other things. The information does not get to them. So when the sessions are held, and on this side, somebody is saying we convened a public participation session, but they did not come. On the other side, they're like, we were not aware. Mm-hmm. But we actually have systems in place that ensure information reaches to people. How come we miss a notice on public participation, but we never miss a notice on the polio vaccine? We have systems to disseminate information to people, both digital and the mainstream and the traditional media. But then this information does not get to people. And when it does, it is not sufficient, because parents and teachers cannot be complaining about the system that people claim they were involved in, but in reality they were not. The information is not given to them in a timely way. The information is not given to them in a comprehensible way, because then if you come with a document in English that many parents would not understand, then they do not know what they're signing on to. So the way public participation is done in this country is a bit problematic, and that needs to change, because then we are having decisions here that are affecting people, but these people can barely do anything about it. In terms of whether we did not move fast enough, or what was the question? Are we moving too fast? I think we did not move fast enough. We sort of, because then it has been a system that has been passed from one office to another office, because we have new people occupying that office, and they're picking up from where the previous occupants left. And for the previous occupants, we would say it was more a question of legacy. We want this thing in during our time. So they had no plan for these kids, what would happen after their time. So this new person is coming to pick up something that was pushed there. So we did not move fast enough to take care of these children. And generally, we are doing a great disservice to this young generation. Yeah.
Okay. Maxwell, on that issue of public participation.
Yes.
A lot can be said about the general handling of the education system by this administration.
Yes,
Questions have been raised about the new model for university funding, that many people feel they are left out. And back to the issue of education needs to be an equalizer.
Yes.
Do you feel that it is being mishandled to any extent?
I don't think it is being mishandled to any extent, as she rightly says. On the issue of public participation and seeking the input of the public in implementing some of these programs, yes, we agree we have a challenge. We have a challenge of access to information. We have a challenge in terms of how they are run. But I think that I hold the view that at this time of our generation, we have people who are we have the young people and of course the general population that is a bit enlightened and access some of these opportunities. And also we also need to consider the issue of the aspect of just being there a general sense of disturbance from some quarters of people, where some people are just too rigid not to accept a system as they are. So they just lambast it for the sake of it without any justification. So yes, we have challenges in terms of public participation, but thus far, as I have seen, it has been conducted well, and of course going forward, I think we can only do some improvement on that.
Okay.
Yes.
I want us now to shift from matters KCPE. Of course, it will continue being the biggest discussion this week, this whole weekend, and even into next week, because now the process moves to Form 1 selection process that kicks off on Monday for about 2 weeks, and this will help parents prepare for January academic calendar, the new academic calendar, as these candidates or these students look to join institutions of higher education and as far as secondary education is concerned. The other big thing happening this week,
yes,
which fortunately or unfortunately has not managed to find space in our dailies today because of KCPE, is the fact that the National Dialogue Committee, its tenure is coming to an end this weekend.
Yes.
To be specific, on the 26th, which is on Sunday. They have today and tomorrow to finalize and present their reports, their joint report to the principals from Azimio and Kenya Kwanza for onward forwarding to the Houses of Parliament. Now, at the beginning of this week, or rather towards the end of last week, it emerged that the team had disagreed on quite a number of issues. Top among them is how to reduce or to lower the cost of living. On one side, Azimio is demanding that some, what we would call early legacy projects for this Kenya Kwanza administration, like the affordable housing project, be put on the back burner, be shelved by removing the housing levy and other taxation measures. They may not be able to agree on all this. Question is, have you during the 90 days that these talks were going on, have you at any point felt that these talks would be the best remedy for what ails Kenya? Do you think these talks are going to be consequential? Loch, let's start with you.
If you're asking me, no. Because the people's voice, however you perceive it to be, is lacking in the conversation.
Yet you're invited to give your opinion, public participation again.
Again, problems with public participation, because then one thing is that people do not access the reports from public participation. There's also the fallacy that participation is equals to meaningfulness, or participation, once you have given your opinions, they are automatically going to be incorporated in the proceedings. So that challenge where people do not access reports to public participation makes people feel like it's more as a formality. Like we show up, we help these people do this thing, but then our opinions are not taken into consideration. Because I remember when the different sides released the things they were going to follow through or anchor their discussions on, there was outrage because people felt like it was not representative of what they want. And my biggest problem comes in terms of where young people are involved. When people are going to the streets, it is young people they look at to do the groundwork. When people want to stop some processes, because then when you're not being heard, you want to make a bold statement. When people are looking to make bold statements, they come to the young people. But in those closed door meetings, in those boardroom discussions, young people are nowhere to be seen. So at what point do we solve this? Because there's an imbalance where we all feel the problem. When you want us to do the groundwork, we are the ones doing it. But when the discussions are made, our voice, our interests, they're nowhere to be considered. So I would say that it is not going to reflect the views of young people, especially young people who just started paying taxes the other day. Like you just started paying taxes the other day, and now there's a barrage of taxation measures being put on you, and you're saying this thing is heavy, but you're being told it's good for the economy. What about me? Because I'm the one doing the work. But then when you guys are talking about these things, I am not included. So I don't think it's going to yield anything significant for young people. Yeah.
Maxwell, for the country, a lot is pegged on the success of these talks. Issues to do with IEBC reconstitution that has delayed. In fact, quite a number of constituencies still don't have representation because we don't have an IEBC in place. So the success of these talks definitely needs to be consequential for Kenyans. Do you feel that we are getting it right? We're only about a day before we get the report.
We are doing it right. The outcome of these talks will be consequential for the country, Fred. And I think I may disagree with my colleague here. She has come out precising the entire process on how it was done. Yet there are memorandums sent, there are notices sent on people to forward memorandum as to areas they wish should take proprietary consideration in terms of the discussion. And we had so many groups, groups given an opportunity to appear before the committee at Bomas, and some that sent their presentations, and those things were factored in. They were factored in. We personally, as a political party under the umbrella of CMD, we were given an opportunity. We presented our memorandum as to issues that should be addressed. And of course, we all agree that the cost of living is something that must take center stage. And I believe, I've not read the report. We are all waiting for the outcome of the report. What most people are doing right now is to try and preempt what is yet to be brought to the public domain. So it's just important. It's just imperative for us.
If they fail to address that issue of the cost of living, will you feel that the report would be consequential? Would you feel that that process is still consequential, if at all they fail to address the issue of cost of living?
I think one of the areas of convergence from both ends, from the Kenya Kwanza side and the Azimio side, was the issue of cost of living and the need to scrap off some of the tax measures that the new regime
that is what they've disagreed upon.
Has introduced.
Actually, because the bone of contention has been those proposals by Azimio on how the Kenya Kwanza team can actually lower the cost of living, mostly pegged on a revision of the taxation measures, which the CS Treasury says cannot happen now, meaning that most likely the product of these discussions may not include some of these measures as proposed. Because they met the CS Treasury yesterday, and the CS said, we may consider those proposals next year, but not now. They cannot go beyond that. If they fail to include any tangible measures on how to lower the cost of living this December, does it mean that we've lost the plot? And that's why the talks are concerned.
I don't think we'll have lost the plot, because remember it is a 5-gender, the points of discussion are 5. Cost of living is just one of them. Another one is the constitution of IBC, and you mentioned some of the constituencies that are somehow disadvantaged out of the slow rate in which we are replacing the IBC commissioners. One of the constituencies that actually, one of them is Banisa constituency in Mandera County. So we need this report to come out fast. And we believe that, yes, we may have 5 agendas, but if we have 4 being considered, then I believe the entire process is consequential, because we're also looking at the stability of the country. Remember that NADCO was constituted as a result of instability of the country, people going to the streets, young people dying. I don't think it's a scenario that we want it to happen in perpetuity. Somehow, we have to find an exit strategy, and I believe that the able NADCO team and our leaders are mindful, and I believe that the outcome will actually lead to the stability of the country going forward. So the talks are quite very consequential.
Yes, and Lot, you must agree that since the talks started, we've enjoyed relative peace in as far as our politics or political space is concerned, that no more mandamano. Raila Odinga is quiet to give space for the talks to succeed. This, if it continues, this is what many Kenyans would have hoped for, don't you think?
Are we equating silence to peace?
I don't know, are we?
It might seem that we'll be, because you mentioned that Raila is quiet. So does that mean we are at peace? Yeah, I would think that, as he rightfully mentioned, a lot of people were invited to give their views, but then it has always been very performative. Like with the finance bill, a lot of us came out, people submitted memoranda upon memoranda, but the thing still passed. Then this whole performance of the court system installing things, but then they still get implemented. It's like part of the dance. This is brought, we submit memoranda, the thing still passes, the court does its thing. It's kinda for us. So it's very performative, and a lot of people are starting to lose, continuing to lose their trust in these institutions that we put in place. So presently, I am hesitant I'm not hopeful, because as a citizen, I have seen this go on. We are invited to give our views, we push back against things, but they still pass, and we are forced to adopt them. So forgive me for not being hopeful that this will speak to my needs and interests.
Let's see if at all Anthony Manyara is hopeful. Anthony Manyara, President of East Africa Students Union, IASU, and Kenya University Students Organization, KUSO. Bwana Manyara, karibu TV47. You found us discussing issues to do with the National Dialogue Committee, whose deadline lapses this weekend, and the team has indicated they'll be issuing or presenting their report or making it public tomorrow. Yet this last week, over the past few days or so, it has emerged that the 10-member team has disagreed on perhaps the biggest, what Kenyans would have hoped would be the biggest discussion there, and it's on the cost of living. That would appear, they may have agreed on so many other things, including the reconstitution of the IEBC. If at all they do not get a convergence when it comes to issues to do with the cost of living, will you still feel that those talks have been consequential? First
of all, thank you so much for inviting me here in Imuli. what I believe is that in this country, I think we have come a long way in terms of democracy, democratic efforts, and the issue about dialogue has not just been there today. It has been there in the years before. We have seen dialogue work in 2008. We have seen it work also in 2017. In every election in Kenya, we have seen two forces, opposing forces, come together to see how they put the interests of the people at heart, or rather on the table, to see how they can come up with solutions. But I choose not to be a very optimistic person, simply because what we have seen before is that this dialogue produces opportunistic issues, which of course gains the principles of those dialogues. And apparently this time around, I think President William Ruto has only one chance of stabilizing the economy through that dialogue committee, or rather the dialogue efforts. But in this country, the way we have seen, I think we are moving downslope in terms of how Kenyans are surviving. If at all, even my own students who I represent nationally have felt the pinch. The economic situation in the country is quite bad. It's terrible. When people are not able even to put a meal on the table. And also we are looking at how are we doing in terms of the dollar. Are we able to afford basics? When you're talking about basics, is issues that are addressed in the Constitution as basic needs: food, clothing, shelter. All these issues have become a serious problem. We cannot really sugarcoat all these things that we have seen. The government may be coming up with policies. Many people are being called to, participate, conduct public participation. I mean, that has become a smokescreen. People are doing it just because it's a formality, whereby you come, people are being organized by various interest groups to go there, to pass a bill, when the real stakeholders are left out, the people who are feeling the heat. So mine is just to say, I think where we have come, it's upon now the people to call upon themselves. They ask themselves, really, and this is the kind of representation we all needed. As the Kenya University Students Organization, we have said we will not really tire to fight for the hoi polloi, the people who are down there, the people, the have-nots. There's a serious disconnect in this country between the haves and the have-nots. We want to see a country which iko na ile tunaitanga uwajibikaji wa ukweli. Yes. You promise this, then you must deliver.
As a student leader, did you get an opportunity to present or make any presentation before this committee?
We didn't get the chance.
There was a period allowed for...
Not just me, all the students as a whole.
You did so?
We did not.
Oh, you did not?
Yeah. Maybe the funding model, the university funding model, but nothing was adopted, what we presented.
Okay.
They only adopted their own things. Yeah.
Now, the biggest criticism has been that these talks are basically to pacify the political elite, that they were very quick to agree on the agenda that suits them, issues to do with the entrenchment of CDF, which the Supreme Court had already said is null and void, issues to do with positions that do not even exist in our constitution, that will only benefit them, positions like Prime Cabinet Secretary, Office of the Leader of Official Opposition. That criticism is correct, but that criticism and the result of pacifying the political elite means that at least we've enjoyed relative calm in the country in a period that, with the prevailing global economy that is affecting us directly, if at all there was political upheaval, that would have worsened the situation. Don't you think, or do you agree that the talks, even before the report, the fact that they're actually sitting around the table, has actually helped this country to a huge extent?
I think that the talks have helped to pacify the country to a very large extent. Fred and all bear me witness that before the talks, after the elections, there was a lot of consternation from the members of the opposition in terms of them representing the people on issues that they feel that the fifth administration has not prioritized. Key among them, the cost of living that we have discussed here. So I believe that even the discussion around the creation of the office of official opposition is long overdue. That we need to have that office entrenched in law, because we have seen from comparative democracies, governments have progressed very well because of checks, because remember the Constitution provides for checks and balances. So we need to have that office up and running, the leader of official opposition, and all the other offices have been in place courtesy of the presidential executive order, which the president has the leeway under the law. The president has the leeway to organize his government, and the law gives him that authority. And so I believe that the discussion around, the negative talk around these positions being for the elite is not being done in good faith, because then also that brings you to a discussion around making the law with the people in mind. Remember that leadership is transitory. We have these ones that are holding positions now. At one point they will exit, then we will be there. And I believe that we on this panel will at one point be called to the high office of leading this country. And I don't think it will be comfortable that time to say that these positions are for the individual. So if we delink the people from the issues, we are able to get the best for this country. Okay. So let us delink personalities from issues, then we will have a sober discussion about where we want this country to be in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
And many Kenyans demonize politics, tend to demonize politics, but there must be some value gained in ensuring that the politics of the country is relatively calm, that it allows for a much easier environment for doing business and other things. Pacifying politicians is not necessarily wrong, is it?
So there is some benefit to be gained, as you say. There is some benefit to be gained when there is stability. But I don't think we achieve stability by pacifying people, if I understand the meaning of the word pacify correctly. Because it's to silence, to quieten someone. It's not really solving their issues. So are we achieving peace at all costs? Because then it's coming at a heavy cost to Kenyans when there is silence, and we are the one being taxed on money we earn, taxed when we spend that money, and taxed on the things we get using that money. So should we just be silent because it's good for the country? I still go back to the fact that peace is not equal to progress. That silence, because peace can be equal to progress, but that silence that we are talking about, that calm, does not equal to progress, does not equal to issues being solved. It is important for that, but it does not equate.
You don't believe it is genuine calm?
I don't think so. Because then what happens to, with the previous, we've had a series of these talks, yes? There was a time when it was announced that let people stop protesting, we are going to talk. Then they disagreed, and the announcement was made, we are going back to the streets. So what's happening to cushion the Kenyans, the ordinary Kenyan, from this madness? Because you've already said they have disagreed. So what happens? What happens when people feel like, the people in those boardrooms feel like our needs were not met? What are they going to do? They're going to come back to Kenyans and tell Kenyans to go back to the streets.
Wow.
But Kenyans are tired. Kenyans have been overtaxed. We have been silenced in a way. So I don't think that this pacification has, I feel like it has both merits and demerits. It's good for the business environment of the country. It's good because people are not destroying things. But it's also not good because then it's not being used well. It's not being used to solve issues. Yes.
Anthony, it would appear that as a country we are running short of options, that Kenyans don't have ways of venting. And on this panel, I know I've previously challenged you on the issue of university students failing to speak up. And you said that, yes, there's a bill that was passed, I think it was a Duale law that changed the elections in universities, and therefore university students who are very vocal on issues that affect the country previously are totally quiet. In the absence of this national dialogue, what other options do Kenyans have to actually express themselves on issues that matter to them?
I would like to say that, sometimes we may want peace, but then at what cost? Like my colleague here said, what really counts is freedom. Remember, for there to be a long-lasting peace, most of the cases, even people fight for it. There is always war. And when there is a battle, sometimes you're gonna ask yourselves, what are we fighting for? But then again, you cannot really claim to have peace when already you're suffering. There's no freedom. When you talk about freedom, we are not talking about you being chained. We talk about your economic freedom. We talk about, are you able really to afford your meal? Are you able to take your kids to school? Now, this has become a dog-eat world, a dog-eat society, whereby people are putting their own interests in front of the interests of the people they represent. And that has become a serious problem, not just in Kenya, but also some selected countries. What we are saying in this country at the moment, the economic situation is at a very, very bad situation. And you have spoken about student leadership, or rather representation of students, as it was before. We have seen the years before, 1992, some years back, when student leaders were there to fight for multi-party democracy, national issues representing the common person, mwananchi. Nowadays, we don't see that happen. Singular reason is that there is suppression, serious suppression, not just in the institutions, but also by government. Right now, if you try to cause any peaceful demonstration within the city, what will the government do? They will ensure the police is there to arrest you, not just to arrest you. They will do very harmful things to you. When there is this kind of assembly, actually we are most approaching to be like Uganda, and to an extent Tanzania. And this was the only country in East Africa which we had this kind of democratic rights. Now, I am still the president of East African Students' Union. I know what happens in each country when it comes to the political situation around students. In this country, we had some kind of freedom to do our own things. Even right now, if you say that we scrap off... Now that freedom is gone. It's gone, my brother, it's gone. Even right now, we scrap off that Duale bill. We say that students are going to be voting again by popular suffrage. You remove the electoral college voting, you bring popular suffrage, one vote, one man. It won't make a difference. If at all, this student leader, if he tries to really advocate for the rights of the students, he is suspended, he is expelled. Maybe a few years randomly or miraculously appear on his portal. There are kind of people out there who are very, very pessimistic. And they are there really to oppress a common student.
Now, if the Kenyan youth are not able to come out and fight, and I'm just using the Kenyan youth as an example of the larger societal problem, because Kenyan youth have historically fought for national issues, and you mentioned the agitation for multi-party democracy and other issues. Right now, Kenyans are facing real problems that they understand, yet it would appear we do not have options. If we leave it to the politicians, the kind of solutions they have is the kind that we're now criticizing and saying it is inconsequential, the National Dialogue Committee. Yet that, it would appear, is the only way we have to have this discussion. What other options do we have? When you say students are suppressed, people cannot go out to the streets, what other options do we have?
Now, personally, I believe with a strong opposition, there's always a strong youth behind. When the opposition was very strong, generally. I'm saying generally because we have seen what was happening with SONU a few years before. I have served in SONU. I've served even the new formulated UNSA, University of Nairobi Student Association. And now we have KUSO. When the opposition was a strong opposition and was able to merge even with the students for genuine causes, that time the opposition was supporting the students. It was helping them even to pass bills, pass policies in the National Assembly. Nowadays, even in the bicameral house, it's becoming very difficult to put through a bill, to go through the Education Committee. All these people, they are stumbling blocks. They always bring about, bottlenecks. When you try to bring a bill which is positive to the students, look at this university's funding model. What has the opposition done for us to ensure that we are able to, to fine-tune some kind of elements in that university's funding model? As we speak, the minister saying that the Higher Education Laws Board funds have been released to all students. Really? Has it really been released to all of them? That's a question to ask. Now, this model, they have seen that they are using some kind of criteria, whereby how can you be able to detect white from black? How can you be able to say that this student is needed, this one is not needed? Through their chiefs. That model already didn't work before. How do we expect really to see a government that is honest? Remember, what we are looking at is sustainability. We are at an era whereby students are frying rats and hunting birds in the universities.
Just to survive.
Just to survive. Wow. And these people, they will never understand that. They will never, it happens. Wale wanafunzi ambao wanaenda these private universities, they will never know because they are paying, personally I'm paying more than 200,000, around 260,000 per year to do a Module 2 course in Parklands Law. Now, what about the Module 1 student who comes from Garissa, who comes from the farthest corner of this country, from the nooks and crannies? How are they able to survive in the university? Their parents cannot pay school fees. Right now, you pay school fees, then tomorrow you are told there is some kind of figure which has miraculously appeared in the overall context of the fee structure.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And Anthony mentioned something very interesting, that when you're looking for options, that the opposition or the alternative government could be an option. Now, we're seeing that kind of discussion before the National Dialogue Committee, the establishment of the office of the official leader of opposition. Yet, if at all that comes through as a result of this kind of negotiation, don't you think that that office in itself will have already been compromised? That it may not necessarily offer the kind of option that we're looking for, that we're now saying we are strained of options, apart from the kind of political discussions we have?
Thank you, Fred. I think the discussion, and I agree with my senior Manyara on some of the issues that he has spoken to. But allow me, before I respond to your question, to invite us to another angle of perspective, and that is within the political parties where now I sit as the Secretary General of the UDM Youth League. If you look at some of the issues that are bedeviling this country, these political institutions also have a role in terms of seeking solutions to some of these problems. And in that regard, I want to just to mention that as a party, for example, the issue of flooding that we're having in the country, we have come out strongly, despite the fact that we are a member, we are a constituent party within the Kenya Kwanza coalition. We have come out very strongly to ask the national government to double up efforts in terms of mitigating the effects of floods. People in Northeastern are dying. Livestock are dying. Look at what is happening in Mombasa. People are swimming and there are people dying. And we have spoken some of these issues. So we don't have to, this narrative of you have to be in opposition to bring out issues that affect the country. I think that is a fallacy that we are not supposed to entertain, especially as the young people. We have capacity, and I must acknowledge what Manyara is doing with the students in terms of mobilizing them into a cause that is of their best interest in terms of the universities. And talking about the issues of the opposition, I believe that, as I've said, that office is timely, and regardless of the person who will occupy that office, I'm looking forward to a scenario, a situation of where we'll have the official leader of opposition, and the team that he will lead will be capacitated enough to handle some of the issues that are bedeviling this country. Among them, the issue of the students, that Manyara is rightly raising. Yes, so I believe that that office is timely, and you know also there's a narrative that one that the discussion around the office of the official opposition, people start mentioning Raila Amolo Odinga. It may not necessarily be Raila Amolo Odinga. If I look at the Azimio coalition, we have almost, I think, 4 principles. Any one of them, and I have read the profiles of these people, any one of them has the capacity of providing checks and balances to the regime.
Is it a failure of our laws, our constitution, that we're now looking at 13 years later, that Kenyans now find themselves without options? That now we're looking for options, we're looking for an official leader of opposition where it is not provided for in our constitution, a constitution that we so painstakingly fought for, struggled, debated, had exchanges, horse trading and all this. Now we find ourselves in problems where we do not have solutions to, and we have to go back and try and change the system to include offices that do not exist. Is that as a result of a lack in our laws?
I think one of the questions we have to ask ourselves is, did our constitution overpromise and underdeliver? Or do we have a good thing in place that we have simply just failed to follow through? Because the Constitution of Kenya gave us, it promised a lot, and Kenyans had a lot of hope in the Constitution, which I still think is there. But then the aspect where we are sort of running out of options, it's not that the options are not provided for in our laws. I think they're there. But then the lack of understanding, the spirit of constitutionalism is not there. The lack of understanding of our laws and what they provide. Many of the things that we are now passing new laws for are already provided for. But then there are a lot of interests riding on these issues. So sort of it's in the way it's presented to us. And then there are a lot of competing interests that then bring about new laws. And most of these new laws are in contradiction with the constitution that we already have. And then now that we are speaking about opposition, I think I'm curious in terms of who is funding this office, because then we cannot expect the office of the opposition within this government to speak against that government. Like, it doesn't make sense. So I am hesitant to affirm that this office is going to bring change when it is entrenched within the same government that is supposed to give checks and balances to. Here.
Allow me to interject on that, Fred, what Loch is saying. Loch, I think I disagree with you on that, because within government, Fred, and all of us know that we have independent institutions. And we have seen independent institutions, some of them going actually against the government. They are funded by the government. A very good example is when, I think it was Ouko, when he was the Auditor General, you saw the reports he was giving. This is an office that is funded by the government, but it was able to stay true to what is stipulated as the mandate of the Auditor General. We have seen even the office of the DPP before. We have seen the ESCC. We have seen other institutions. So my point is, funding the office of the official opposition does not necessarily that you are compromising these people. It is possible that these people will be funded by the government and still are able to rectify the government in terms of some of the policy decisions that they make.
Okay.
Yes.
But Manyara, you mentioned something about looking at history and how the opposition worked with the university students. And right now we have the minority in parliament. Are we saying that this new system where we have majority-minority is not really working well? With probably students, university students as opposed, because you said that even trying to get a petition or a bill through a committee in parliament is almost impossible.
You know, interestingly, Indimuli, is that this country was one of the key people who formed what we called Movement for the Defense of Democracy, MDD. And all those mandamanos, I was there. And I can tell you, as a matter of fact, I've been in opposition for quite a long time. And sometimes we tell our students, who are university students, that they have been in opposition since 1972. They have been in opposition all through. And we still always encourage them to be on the other side of government. You're not supposed to be supporting the government of the day, because at the end of the day, you need to side with the people, the people at the receiving end from the fruits of a working government. Now, if we look at what we are seeing today, is what we would really describe as a concept of Darwinian capitalism, whereby the strongest survive. And actually, the politicians don't care how human beings survive in this country. They don't care. And what we are likely to see is what we normally say, that a man for himself and God for us all. Now, if we look at the issues that are in the National Assembly, yes, we have two opposing sides. We have the minority, we have the majority for the ruling party. Why then is that when we come up with good proposals for the country and the bicameral house, those MPs, nowadays it has become very difficult.
What is the challenge there?
You must pay them for them to pass a bill.
Even the ones in minority?
You must lobby. You know, lobbying sometimes it's a little bit multifaceted. You have to come up with funding. You have to call them to convince them. I mean, that's where we have come, instead of people really trying to use their own conscience to see what is right, what is wrong. Nowadays, even if you have a bill which is saying that we should be killing babies the moment they are born, and trust me, you have funds, it will go through. And babies will be killed from the next day.
Is that a failure of the system, minority vis-a-vis majority, or it's just the conduct of this 13th parliament?
Well, you know, sometimes it's monkey see, monkey do. We have seen how our politicians are doing, how even they are getting to offices. Kitambo, someone young, someone strong, dynamic like yourself, if you go back to your village and you campaign, people will elect you genuinely for whatever you are doing for them. Nowadays it's different. You have to make them line up. You give them 100 shillings, 200 for them to elect you. I mean, it's a rotten society. But then again, those are things which are with us. We'll be able to maneuver as we progress. But what really I wanted to say is, I will not waste my time here. I will just speak what I wanted to say. My students, the students I represent, we have very serious problems, courtesy of this economy. What we want to advocate is to see how this government respects the youth. Like I said, our students are not able to afford school fees. Right now, it has gone threefold in almost all the universities. If you look at medicine, the cost of doing medicine at the University of Nairobi, it's more than 1 million. It's almost 1.5. Tell me a parent who will afford that, looking at the salary. You're supposed to be paid more than 200,000 per month for you to afford that kind of. And remember, I think the only hope that we have, there's a time we supported finance bill as KUSO, leveraging on the fact that they were proposing the housing levy. Are students taxed? No. I was a bit selfish. I looked at the interest of students. They are not taxed. That 3%. It's people who are employed. So we wanted to be on the receiving end.
Yes.
And as I say, I have spoken to Hinga. We have a plan. Remember, there are so many institutions in this country. I'm talking about the Principal Secretary for Housing and Urban Development. We have so many units in these universities that are going to benefit them. We are risking issues to do with raping, rampant raping, a lot of deaths, students being killed for just carrying a backpack because those places are insecure areas. We want to see how they can live in a decent place. If you go to the University of Nairobi, you take your kid there and you follow them and you want to see where they live. Looks like a small toilet with some shelves, with a lot of bed bugs. You know, sometimes we normally, even as comrades, we normally call bed bugs micro comrades. And sometimes people think we try to coexist with bed bugs, but it's the tough situation back there. Tell me how a student will not commit suicide or die of depression. You have a girlfriend who you're supposed really to take care of. Maybe you're male, girls, I don't think whether they take care of boys, but okay.
Interesting.
There is the threat of disease in the university. Does the government even supply condoms anymore? We need to see how all these universities, there is adequate supply of condoms.
Okay.
You know,
And
there are so many issues.
Because of time, I'll ask you to give your final comments as you continue with that. So that,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I just wanted to say there is a serious fix in the universities. The only issue, the only hope where we are is accommodation. Mm-hmm. School fees, no, we have not reached there. Help, we are not reached there. Government opportunities, talk about scholarships. How many students access that? Mm-hmm. Children of tall people. You have a tall uncle, you have a tall relative in government who is likely to afford you a scholarship somewhere. Yes, completely I agree with Teresa, what she said. She said, yes, this government, there is no hope, even if you create that one office. Even if you create that one office, mm-hmm. these people will sit down on themselves, 2 years, 3 years will end, and then, 2 years actually, will then get back to campaigns. Okay. We want to see how. Why is it that the government doesn't want to publicize, to have National Youth Council have elections, mm-hmm. so that the youth can be organized? Why do they want the youth to be organized? Question is, do the youth have to sit back and wait for them to be given permission for them to demand for their own right? Maxwell, final words as we wrap up this session.
Thank you very much, Fred. I think in passing, I want to acknowledge the fact that as a country, we have a lot of challenges. And as a country, we are making progress. I think we also need to acknowledge the fact that in the midst of all this confusion and imbroglio, there is a genuine effort to prioritize the needs of our people. Part of it being the national dialogue. So I want to rally the leadership of this country to be people-centric and to take approaches that are in the best interest of the people. And we believe in the leadership that is in place by the fifth administration led by His Excellency Dr. William Ruto. I believe that he needs to be accorded time and maybe I'm looking at a possibility of by close of business 2024, we'll be making headway as a country. Okay. So I want to rally the young people to also be very proactive in this country and to join forces that are progressive and in the best interest of the country. We are the majority in this country as the young people, and it is incumbent upon us to rise up to the occasion and not be conformists, especially when our voice is required, because then policies are made that are to our detriment. But when we rise to the occasion, when we demand our space, when we demand what is duly ours, indeed it shall be granted, because remember, the voice of the people is the voice of God. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maxwell. And finally, Teresa Lodge.
Okay, thank you for this space. Two things. I would want to I wanted to sit on this, but I'd want to share it. We say people die by suicide, people don't commit suicide because people commit crimes, and suicide is not a crime. It is a mental condition. That's why we try to be more sensitive and say die by suicide, not committing suicide, because we're also trying to decriminalize mental health. Then in terms of the discussions we've been having, I firmly believe that the question of governance is heavily tied to livelihoods. If we are not investing in good governance, then we do not expect Kenyans to have a good quality of life. And presently, I don't think we're investing in good governance. Yes, it is in our best interest as Kenyans for the government of the day to succeed. It really is in our best interests, because then if they fail, we are the ones who will bear the brunt of it. It is in our best interest for them to succeed, but we are alive to the reality of where we find ourselves, that we have had systems in place that have not served us. So when we push back against these systems, it's our portion. We are investing in that, because then, should they fail, we bear the brunt of it. Should they succeed, we enjoy a better quality of life. So we should invest in good governance as a country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Teresa Lodge, Digital Communications Officer, Munyendo J. Maxwell, Secretary General, United Democratic Movement, Youth League, and Anthony Manyara, President KUSO and IASU as well. Our panelists this morning on the youth perspective on State of the Nation as we look at issues that are pertinent to Kenyans, of course, matters to do with education and KCP results, as well as the expected report by the National Dialogue Committee. A quick breaking news that we're just receiving: 8 people are feared dead after they were swept away by the river Muoni in Makueni County as they were trying to cross the river from Kavuthu to Mutyambwa. Once again, 8 people are feared to have died after they were swept away by the river Muoni in Makueni County as they were trying to cross the river from Kavuthu to Mutyambwa. This is as the flooding situation worsens in different parts of the country. We will update you more as we continue to receive these updates. For now, let me go to editorial comment as we wrap up this session. Now, the release of the KCPE 2023 results marks a significant transition in Kenya's education landscape, signaling the departure of the 844 system and the full immersion into the competency-based curriculum, CBC. As the nation prepares for Form 1 selection starting next week and embraces this pivotal moment, it is imperative that we now prioritize the comprehensive implementation of the CBC. After 39 years, KCPE is finally gone. Focus must now shift entirely towards the success and inclusivity of the new curriculum. There is no turning back. There are no remnants of the old system left within primary schools. And if at all there are, it is time to bury them. The future of Kenyans' education solely relies on the effectiveness and accessibility of the new curriculum. The need to address the challenges and hurdles that have so far hindered the smooth implementation of CBC cannot be overstated. It is time to confront these issues head-on and devise sustainable solutions. Accessibility, teacher training, resource allocation, and alignment with the needs of diverse learners across the country are crucial areas that require immediate attention. Collaboration between the government, educators, parents, and communities is essential to ensure a seamless and successful adaptation of the CBC continuous dialogue. Feedback and support structures must be established to refine the new curriculum